Okay, here we go. We're going to program now a 2001 Vauxhall Vectra for the first time. This is the software screen. First job is to check that the RPM is calibrated correctly. The computer at the moment is saying 840 RPM, and if we look at the rev counter, that's just under 1,000. I'm going to take the RPM to 3,000 and then have a look at what the PC says. The PC is also agreeing that it's 3,000, so the RPM is calibrated correctly. The next job we do is we're going to tell the system what type of engine this is, whether it's sequential, semi-sequential, full group, and how many cylinders it's got. We do this simply by pressing this TINJ Max box. New box pops up and it's asking us to show it the maximum injector duration. We do this by revving the car very hard and very quickly, like that. That's now showing 15.6 milliseconds. I'm going to do it once more to check that I've got the maximum. I hadn't. It's gone to 1630. Try it once more to see if that is the maximum. That was the third time that is maximum. We now press save. Okay, you can see the pressure now is 680 millibar or thereabouts, manifold vacuum at the moment. The system hasn't actually primed yet. We're going to make the first change over to gas. At the moment we're running on petrol, benzene. When it goes to gas, here we'll say GPL. The first change, all we want to do is look at what the pressure does. We're looking for between 1.1 and 1.3 bar, 1200 ideal. And we have a quick look what the injector duration does compared to what it is on petrol at idle. At the moment we're seeing approximately 3.4, 3.5 milliseconds. We can ignore these two figures. You've also got fuel trim here so you can see which way the tuning needs to go. To make the first change, we take the car to approximately 2,000 RPM, press the space bar, which now goes to gas. We're on gas now. We have a quick look at the pressure as we decrease the RPM down to idle. There's 1100, more or less ideal. Injected duration's 3.7. We don't leave it on gas for very long. We go back to petrol. We saw the duration was higher on gas than it was on petrol, so it obviously needs more fuel. We only have one tuning figure. This is at the bottom here. The negative and the positive buttons move it 100 points at a time. This figure we call KTAR. This slider on the right hand side is a fuel pump, accelerator pump. 20% is right for 95% of the cars that we do, and we move this up and down using the little arrows. Lower the bar, the higher the number, the less fuel it puts in on acceleration. Leave this one at 20%. We're going to change now to gas and work out where this figure needs to be. We can do this using either the injected duration or we can do it using fuel trim. We'll show you both. You can see the injected duration is 3.3 milliseconds on petrol, and we can see that the fast fuel trim is approximately 2 or 3. We can change to gas and immediately see that the injected duration rises. This is telling us that the car's trying to put more fuel in. And you can see here that the fast fuel trim has risen now to over 20%. We'll press the plus button because we need more fuel. Take it to 1300 there on the KTAR reading. Duration's beginning to fall, fuel trim not yet. Give it a little more. There's 1400. Injected duration now is 3.6, 3.7, and the fuel trim beginning to fall. Move along with the right and left arrow keys. Move it up to 1450 there. Still possibly a little bit more. That's 1500. Now we've got 3.4, 3.5, and the fuel trim now is down to approximately the same value as it was on petrol. We're very close to this red area. This would tell us that we need a bigger nozzle. Conversely, this would tell us that we need a smaller nozzle. At the moment, at 1500, we're teetering on needing a bigger nozzle in this car, although the pressure is only 1000 and ideally it will be 1200. Okay, so I've just been outside the car now and lifted the fuel pressure a little bit, and now see the fuel pressure's at 1250 thereabouts millibar. We look at the fuel trim now. The fuel trim's now gone negative, and this figure is now below what it is on petrol. Just to check for you, back to petrol 33, 34, back to gas 31, 32, so it's now too rich. We need to reduce this figure. There's now 1400 kTOR, we've got 3.3, 3.4 milliseconds, and the fuel trim round about 0. Back to petrol 34, 35, fuel trim round about 0, gas the same. This car's now almost ready for a road test. I'll just check this at 3000 RPM. There's 3000 RPM or thereabouts. Fuel trim just teetering negative. There's petrol 28 milliseconds. Sorry, 2.8, 2.9 milliseconds. Fuel trim just slightly negative. Gas 26, 27. Maybe this needs to be just a little lower out on the road. We'll go out on the road now and we'll do a road test. The initial setup is now finished as far as programming the car is concerned. We can set the level gauge now if we like. This is done on the only other page in the software, on the settings page. We have 30 degrees to change over, 30 seconds before it changes over, time. There's a pressure sensor fitted, so it's ticked. These are default settings. We're running on GPL or Metano, LPG or CNG, they don't bother translating that. The system's able to go back to petrol when it runs out of gas. This is always set to yes, and for any modern car, fast. We don't want the car to remain on LPG for longer than it really can run. The temperature correction you can ignore, it's only on CNG, has no use on LPG. Sensors, it has a pre-defined set of sensors. We drop this box down and choose one of those sensors. For most 090 sensors, the BRC resistive one is the one to choose. All this does is set the lead levels. So we choose that, the lead levels move slightly. Once the egg timer goes out, it's programmed. For this particular switch, it's an OMB switch, and by using a magnet and going from empty to 80%, we've previously worked out that the correct zero figure is 0, and the correct maximum figure for this gauge is 450. Press enter, locks it in. This software is capable of self-learning a level gauge, but this isn't useful because some gauges give more resistance above 80% and then the gauge becomes inaccurate. We can stop this by ticking this little box here, which in Italian says manual configuration. Settings are now done. We'll go back to the engine page and now out on the road. We'll stop the recording now till I get to a bit of decent road, slightly uphill, 50 to 60 mile an hour, and we'll have a look at what the fuel trims and the injector duration are doing. Okay, here we are out on the road. Fortunately, this is Wales, so we've got hills in it, so the road goes up and down. 50 mile an hour. We've tried to pick a fairly steady bit of road. Got a petrol. We're looking for 6 milliseconds duration, 5.9, 6 milliseconds. Fuel trim there is at -7. Go to gas. 5.7, 5.8. Fuel trim there, approximately -3, the same as petrol. This has proved the car's now set out on the road.